Working on a 1650cc DR wood chipper. It has broken out these around where the plate that sets your knife cutting distance is. You can see up here on top where that broke out before on me last year. I have not abused this, but we do use it hard. We have 80 acres in Oregon and our 40 acres with our new place in Idaho. Here's we're trying to chip all the thinnings. This is supposed to be, I believe, a 4 and be able to handle 4 3/4 inch trees. I really don't suggest trying to push anything that big through it. First thing I have to do is take the chute off. I'll take it off right where it goes into the machine. It is in 2 pieces. You can kind of see in line right there above that strap. You can take the top part of the chute off and then the bottom part, but it's easier to get the top off if you take this off. There are 2 bolts on top, one on the front side there right above the battery, and 2 on the back side that hold it on. I had never had it off and didn't realize it, but the 3 bolts on the bottom, I'll show you later, that hold the adjustment plate for the knife. Doesn't have to come off to get the chute off, but I went ahead and took them off anyway. This was just a standard trimmer that came with the plastic wheels on it. I took them off and threw them away. I could get a piece of 2-inch angle iron. Went down to a place that sells trailer parts, bought a couple of stub axles, welded them onto that piece of angle iron and welded it on under the machine, and then put these regular trailer tires on to give it a little wider stance and a little better stability in the woods. It was probably about $50 cheaper than buying the regular road ready kit from DR, but then that also comes with lights, I believe. I have the chute off. I'm kind of inspecting where the crack is. This is where all the stress, the wood goes down in between the blade and that adjustment, so that when it hits, it pushes out on that plate, and that's what broke it. With some types of wood, there is a lot of vibration when that blade starts cutting off there, and it just eventually weakens the material. It probably could stand to be just a little bit thicker piece that bracket mounts to from the factory, or at least have some gussets in it like I'm going to put in here later on. One thing I didn't do, which probably would have been a lot safer and made things a little easier to work on, is remove that battery. You don't want to weld around a battery too much. The fumes that come off could cause an explosion, and you'll end up getting seriously acid burned or even fire burned. You see me trying to tap that back into place, and it's not going. So what I eventually end up doing is I have a couple of long Bessey clamps that I use for welding. We'll attempt the clamp has a range of about 22 inches, and I will attempt to put it on the front of that bracket and suck it back into place and tack it there. And once I get it into place, I'll eventually have to take the bracket off, or the clamp off, and then I'll finish welding it once it's tacked into place. You want to make sure it gets pretty tight and back to about where it was. If it sticks out anyway, there's a good chance it could break again. I'm going to use a wire feed on this. I don't have much 3/32 rod, and I'm afraid I could be burning a hole through it with a stick welder if I used a 3/32, in which case it makes a blob on the back side. Then I'd have to tear the whole thing apart to grind that off, otherwise the knife might hit it. So with the wire feed, hopefully I just get enough penetration to fill the crack. Add the grinder there, made a little bit of a groove where the crack is for more penetration, and also get the paint off. If you haven't done much welding with the wire feed, which I haven't, they will not go through paint very well. They tend to bubble and pop, so I try and remove as much paint as I can. On the other side here, I had to rotate the blade and stick the clamp through the flywheel that the blade is attached to get it to suck that side in enough to get it tight enough. The clamp wouldn't go over the whole thing. So again, I'm grinding off all the paint and trying to make a little groove in the crack so I get better penetration. Kind of a hard place to get the clamp situated to be able to pull in, but finally made it and got it in there. The bottom part of the chute broke last year, and here you can see the very bottom of the bottom parts broke this year. They only tack welded it, made a couple of inch long welds on it, so they started breaking when that bottom split. I'm going to re-weld it solid from top to bottom and put a couple of very small tacks on the inside. Brown stuff is pitch buildup that I'm scraping off the bottom of the chute. It's not absolutely necessary, but if you're pushing material through it, why it can make it slide a little harder, so it's probably a good idea to keep it clean. You have to take the chute completely off to do it unless you got really long arms. You could probably use a cleaner to get some of that off with, but you would want to make sure that you weighted and run some water and stuff through the bottom, so if there's any of it that was collected in the bottom of the hole where the flywheel is, that it didn't get a spark and start a fire if it was anything flammable. If it's not flammable, it probably wouldn't make any difference. This is the edge that goes against the blade on the flywheel that makes the cuts for the chips. It's on a slide there, you can see. That's where it's adjusts. Got the 3 bolts in the bottom, and it's got a little yellow plastic piece that goes down in there that gives you the proper spacing. I leave it tied there on that brace that goes on the side so I don't lose it. These are the 3 bolts that hold that plate for the spacer for setting your knife distance. If you get it too wide, it'll take big chips and they'll come out in long strings, probably 6 to 8 inches long. If you get it too narrow, it'll take forever to chip something. Here I'm starting to put the top chute, connect it to the bottom one. It's really hard to do if it's on the bottom chute's on the machine because you got to stick your hand clear down in there. They have large, flat, pretty flat, round-headed Phillips screws on the inside so that everything slips by it and doesn't hang up, and then you have your nuts on the outside. It is possible to put it together with the bottom part of the chute on the machine, but you better have some 3-foot long arms because that's how I had to do it when I first got it. It's much easier to do when it's laying on the table. You can put them both together. It's hard to get a Phillips screwdriver in there on them anyway because it takes a number 3, and most number 3s are pretty long. This is the quality control team came in to inspect, make sure things were going good back together. I'm getting ready here. I cut a couple of gussets. I put the 2 short ones on top already. These are 2 longer ones which will go on the bottom. Hopefully these 4 will give enough strength to the plates so that they won't break again. But time will tell, and we'll see how much it'll take. Trying to get the cut from the cutting torch ground off it so it's nice and smooth and doesn't have any of the impurities from the torch on there, which make it real hard to weld. Plus shape it so that it sits perfectly flat on the machine, is not pulling one way or the other. And I'm trying to get all of the paint ground off where I need to weld. The wire feed doesn't get hot enough to take the paint off, so that it'll chip and pop and doesn't make a very good weld if you try and do it on top of paint. You need perfectly clean bare metal. See here, I'm getting ready to tack the piece up there, get it tacked on and hold it, and then I can get everything out of the way and it'll be a little easier to weld. I was running just a shade cold on the weld, and as you will see here in a minute, I went to turn the welder up a little bit hotter. Only I didn't get it turned into the cog. I got caught in between 2 and 3 instead of getting it totally onto 3, so I wasn't getting any spark coming through the end of the gun. And it took me a little while to finally figure out what the problem was. I thought maybe it was a bad ground, but there I am turning it up to 3 and not getting it in the right place. Now trying to figure out why I'm not getting any fire. And I got everything turned back on so it works. Welding the bottom left-hand gusset. Doesn't leave too much room in there to work, so it's pretty sloppy.
Much it better.
Getting the gusset on the bottom side cleaned up and shaped up to put on the right side or back side of the machine. Just trying to see there where the gusset will fit before I take the bracket off. Then I'll take the bracket off and weld it so I got enough room to put the bracket back on. Get all the paint ground off so get a good weld. Then we will start attaching. To get the gusset ground flat to conform where the welds are. They're a little bit higher than the regular plate, so trying to get it to fit perfectly flat so it doesn't pull. Bottom gusset being tacked. I have them put the bottom ones on very close to the top because the top is where it's going to break out first, and where I couldn't put the big wide gussets on there, where I put these on in hopes that they will give it the extra strength and not break out again. On this thin of metal, you want to watch and try not to get it too hot while you're welding. The heat will make it crack right along the weld if it gets enough stress on it. And the gussets in, the welding all done. Well, I guess it's probably time for a little bit of paint.